What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast. Now, I'm Alex. This video I want to discuss the new Watch Dogs Legion and the new Assassin's Creed, whatever that game ends up being, if they're going to hurt each other. Now, this is a discussion that I've had bits of over the past little while. I've actually always held on to this belief that Ubisoft titles, especially ones like Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, cannot come out too close to each other. Now, here's the good news. Here's ultimately the good news. Ubisoft last week had that fiscal call that talked about their earnings report, all that kind of stuff, and they talked about the new game, and there's going to be 5 games releasing between March of 2020 and March, basically, of 2021. So within a full year, there's 5 games. People have put the things together, Rainbow Six, Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry is another one of them. So you can put some of these together, and also the fact that Skull and Bones, you could basically form the argument Skull and Bones is not on that list, so that one is out. So in the next 12 months, we're going to get those 4 and also one that I didn't even say. And these games, Far Cry, I feel like it is far enough out there, funny enough, that it really wouldn't affect that much Watch Dogs or Assassin's Creed. Now, the biggest thing I have with Assassin's Creed is the thing I've always talked about with Watch Dogs ever since it was delayed twice. So if you remember, supposed to come out in November of 2019, was pushed then to March of 2020, and now pushed to, technically, no one knows. But I think we can all safely, assume that this fall would be when Watch Dogs Legion comes out. Now, there's a couple things to think about with this is, I think for the longest time, Ubisoft had always planned the next Assassin's Creed game to be the fall of 2020, to be current gen and next gen. I think it'll come out on both PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, Xbox One. But I think we're going to get that. I think we're going to get that probably mid to late October. It'll come out on all of them. You can buy it for next gen, whatever. So I think that was always Ubisoft's plan. Now, the problem is Watch Dogs has, because they thought, okay, well, last year, 2019, you go into the fall, we have Watch Dogs, we're really going to push that. That's going to be like our holiday game, right? That's going to help people, or people are going to buy that game a lot. We're going to make a lot of money on that. And then guess what? It got delayed. So they were like, oh, shoot. Oh, we have Ghost Recon, but we're not really going to put any money towards it. Also, it's a complete disaster, and people are going to hate it. So that obviously backfired, and that blew up in their face. Not necessarily their fault, right? They can't control how fast Watch Dogs gets created in the way that it is. But they find themselves in the situation now that even if you look at that, then what did they do? They said, well, we really don't have much going on in the spring, so let's maybe move Watch Dogs from November to March. Let's have it be our spring kind of game. Well, now it's gone from there too. So now you have a question, and here's the deal. It's not maybe necessarily a bad thing for gaming in general, right? I mean, to have a Watch Dogs game and to have Assassin's Creed game come out within like a month or two of each other, I guess from a gaming perspective, that's different options. That's just more games out there. It's more games that you could buy for the next generation of console or your current console, whatever you want. So that's okay. But here's ultimately the biggest thing. Maybe I should have started off by this. You could say, well, why would they possibly hurt each other? Because people have thrown this opinion or have thrown this at me in the past. It's honestly as simple as money is not infinite, and we only have so much money, and you can only buy so many games. And when you have 2 games like this, like a new Assassin's Creed and like a Watch Dogs, they are very... Now, no, they are not the exact same game, but they are very similar to the point that for the past little while, Ubisoft has made it very clear we will not have these come out even in the same year. In fact, remember, in Assassin's Creed's off years, that's when they have had Watch Dogs. At least that's what they had Watch Dogs 2. Now, Watch Dogs 1 was released in the May, the year that it came out. So it was still like 5-6 months before Assassin's Creed came out. So even that year, they spaced it out. So at the worst, you probably want them to be your half and half, right? One comes out in the spring, one comes out for holiday, and there you go. You have 2 juggernauts. Then obviously you fill the rest of the year with your other titles. I mean, For Honor kind of became that, Ghost Recon, The Division, those are kind of games like that. But you don't want Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed to be out right next to each other because they're too similar, and they're going to take from each other. To be quite honest with you, I feel like they would both hurt because of it. But let me tell you for sure which game would hurt more from this is Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs is the game that it's had a very rocky franchise in general. The first one, and we talked about Watch Dogs, right? The first one, there's some stuff to like. I personally am not a fan of the first one. Not even because of like the lies of like how good it was supposed to look versus what it was, or what it was supposed to play like and what it actually did. Mainly just because I didn't really like it all that much just in general. Second one, I love. Tyler and I had so much fun. It was just a really, definitely a tone shift for the franchise, but in my opinion, a really, really fun game. But it did not sell well. In fact, it sold really bad compared to the first Watch Dogs. Why? Because people felt burned by the first game, so they didn't play a second game. So you have Watch Dogs who's had a rocky history, but potential, always potential. And you know what I mean? I don't want to bag on it because this is not a let's bag on Watch Dogs video. I like the Watch Dogs franchise. I'm getting Legion. Like, I want to get Legion day one. And to be quite honest with you, I would do everything possible to get Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed. Okay, I love both franchises. I'd want to get both. But still, look, Ubisoft is not the only publisher out there. These are not the only 2 games out there. The fall could be insane. Now, if you go on right now, Wikipedia, Google it from like a Game Informer site or whatever, look at the games that are coming out in the fall. There are none, right? Past Cyberpunk and past Avengers, there's nothing for the most part. But that's because we don't know any, right? Because next gen isn't announced yet, so there's a lot that's still to be announced. We're going to get flooded with games. And again, like, these 2 games are very similar, but then throw in like 10 other games, and it's like, okay, now you have 12 games. Maybe you can only buy 3. Maybe you can only buy 4. And guess what? That's still a lot, because there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of teenagers that are getting consoles as well, and there's just a lot of people that don't have the money to be buying 7-8 games that would then equal, $500-$600 on top of a $500 console. And then throw in that 2 of those games, Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, are both very similar. Now, you could throw back at, and this could stop the entire argument, that maybe Assassin's Creed is this fall, and maybe Watch Dogs got pushed even more to the spring, so that is one of those last games in their year. And I'd say that's a better idea. I think, again, these games have to be separated by at least 3 months. I've kind of always held that opinion. And now, again, with this earnings call, it's like, okay, they don't have much time, because we know Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs are not releasing before like September. They just aren't. I would be shocked if Watch Dogs came out in like August or anytime before it. I really don't think it's going to happen. So I'm assuming September at the absolute earliest. There's also the question of, technically, we don't know Watch Dogs Legion is a cross-generation game. In fact, coming out in 2019, or supposed to come out this past November, obviously it was only for current gen. So you could argue that maybe Watch Dogs is, I guess this could also fix it, but also hurt both games in the same way, where if Watch Dogs comes out in September and it's only current gen, and then Assassin's Creed comes out a month and a half later, late October, early November, and it's just next gen, that would maybe help, but Watch Dogs would maybe do better, but it also has to compete with Cyberpunk and Avengers, and it's coming out a month and a half before next gen, when people are saving money for next gen. And then Assassin's Creed, if you put that on, so you have a problem there too, right? Because if you put Assassin's Creed on current gen, it's still competing with Watch Dogs in the same way. But if you only put it for next gen, well, that's just less people overall that can buy it. There's not going to be as many PS5 and Xbox Series X owners as there are currently PS4 and Xbox One. You know what I mean? So it's a tough decision and discussion to have. And I don't know how many people are truly interested in having that discussion, but it's one that I think is going to be really interesting, because people will not be able to get both depending on circumstances. I'm not saying everybody, but there's going to be those situations. And even if you say push it to 2021, well, Far Cry has had a history of coming out in February or March, right? The last couple have. So you look at that and it's like, well, I honestly feel like February of 2021, you can nail it right in. You could put it in your calendar. That's when Far Cry 6 is coming out. So that's super, like, where does Watch Dogs, like, does Far Cry hurt Watch Dogs? Where does Watch Dogs fit in? It's the same kind of discussion I've had with Skull and Bones, where it's like, that game obviously was supposed to come out years ago, but it's been reworked, it's constantly been rebooted, and it's going to have problems no matter what. But I had the discussion of, like, is Ubisoft just going to leave it behind? Or is they going to do, like, a stealth launch like they kind of did with Ghost Recon Breakpoint, where it's just like, okay, games out. Like, if you want to buy it, you can buy it, but we're really not going to push it all that much because the real focus is on something else. So no matter how you break it down, I feel like they're going to hurt each other in some way. It's going to be really interesting to see when Watch Dogs actually does come out. I'm sure the release date will be shown at their E3 stage, or maybe even before, maybe even at Sony's PS5 reveal. But again, if it's not for PS5, I think we would have to probably wait till Ubisoft's E3 press conference. But eventually, we're going to figure it out. I do think at the end of the day that these two games are probably going to hurt each other. Again, I think Assassin's Creed is going to hurt Watch Dogs a whole lot more than Watch Dogs would hurt Assassin's Creed. And we'll have to see again if Ubisoft goes the way of kind of having to pick and say, hey, we just kind of have to put Watch Dogs out there and say, hey, I mean, it's a good game. People are going to enjoy it, but like, we really got to push Assassin's Creed because no matter what, Assassin's Creed was always kind of planned out to come in the fall. You know, Watch Dogs was supposed to come out a year ago. We weren't supposed to have this problem, and now we do. And it's a tough situation because you could say, well, it's a nice problem to have, right? It's a nice problem to have so many games releasing all from you, right? More sales. But at the same time, like, if it's going to stop people from buying one of them because they're all close together, that is definitely an issue that they're going to have to figure out. So let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you think? Which of these two games do you think would hurt each other? Do you think they would get hurt at all? So do you agree or disagree with what I was saying? Let me know. I do want to cover Watch Dogs Legion more often on this channel, and when both these games come out, both Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, we'll be covering them leading into their release and then when they release as well. So lots of videos Ubisoft related over the coming months on this channel. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you all on the next video.